What's going on, friends? This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Today is Tuesday. Did everybody have a good Monday? Did you have a case of the Mondays? Did you get that reference? You like Office Space? Yeah, it's the jam and the jelly. I love that movie. It's so silly, but it's hilarious. But anyway, I hope everyone had a good Monday. So we're into Tuesday. Syracuse football plays at SMU on Saturday. How are we feeling? Is the sky falling down? I don't know. I still don't think it is. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic or unrealistic or naive or whatever. I'm just not ready to completely hit the panic button yet. Like, I don't know. A lot of people, like, as I mentioned yesterday on Syracuse Central, you're concerned about Ricky Collins, and I get all that, but I just feel like, give him one more game at least. It was just a bad game. It was a bad game. And not just by him. The defense, the turnovers, special teams, kickoff return, like just all around. It was just bad. Poor tackling. They didn't have a ton of penalties. Bad pass coverage. They got crushed in the run game. It was just bad. Duke just looked good. And that just happens sometimes. And if they get smoked like that at SMU, then I'll be like, oh crap, like this isn't looking good. But, and I don't care about the odds. I know they're like a 14.5 point dog or something like that. And I get that. They just got blown out. They were an underdog at home with their backup in. They got blown out. And now they're playing on the road against a team that's off a bye. And it's out in Dallas. So, there's travel involved. I don't know. Anyway, there was some cool comments from Fran Brown though. He said that Ricky Collins actually came to him after the game and asked if they could rewatch the Duke game together, the two of them, and they went through it. And I think Brown said they were there till like midnight or something like that, and I thought that was cool. And Brown said it brought him a little closer, and he believes in Ricky, and it shows his leadership and that they were teaching each other things. And, I just think that's cool. I think look, again, I'm not saying that Ricky Collins is going to be as good as Steve Angeli. Steve Angeli, the redshirt junior from Notre Dame, was leading the country in passing yards coming into week 4 when Syracuse would end up beating Clemson on the road, and he got injured in that game. And he's done for the year, and it sucks. But Ricky Collins, the redshirt sophomore transfer from LSU, he was a 4-star prep recruit. He played he was at LSU. He obviously didn't, wasn't getting reps, but he committed to LSU, which is a legit SEC team. So like people saying, oh, he's not a D1 caliber. Come on, give me a break, dude. He had one start. It's not easy to come in like that. Yeah, he had the pick against Colgate, but he also had a touchdown pass. Yes, he needs to improve some decision making and whatnot and get rid of the ball quicker. But like he's got an arm and he's mobile, so give him a break. And anyway, I just thought this was a cool story because, Brown said he coming into the situation, he thought he did a pretty good job, and he made some mistakes, but he didn't think he struggled. And I don't know. I mean, Ricky completed 65% of his passes, 229 yards. An interception, obviously no touchdowns. They didn't score a touchdown. And he had a fumble that they recovered, but I think they lost around 10 yards. But, Fran said, look, Ricky didn't play great, but he was okay. He was solid, and it's something to build on. But, the defense stunk. They didn't get the ball to Yassine Willis enough. It just was a bad overall game. And the quarterback is the easy person to blame because it's the most important position in football. And it's easy to blame Ricky because he's the backup quarterback coming in after, Steve Angeli, the nation's leading, passer, goes down. And it's just, he's an easy target. It's just lazy. I'm not saying he was good, but he wasn't awful. The team was awful. He was not good, not great, but he was okay. But Brown said he thought that Collins was poised in the pocket, unafraid to throw. And again, get the ball out quicker, some better decisions. It was one game. But then there was a quote from Jonte Cook, the junior wide receiver transfer from Texas by way of Washington. He said, just keep playing loose and confident. We got your back. Just be confident, and you can live with your decisions you make. Look, we're all bummed about Steve Angeli, but this is Ricky's team now. And Brown said, look, him coming to me and saying, let's watch this game, let's go through it, let's own up to it, shows that he's a leader. This is who we need at quarterback. And we're building up this program, and Ricky can help get us where we want to be. And then we'll see after this year. But, so the team's got his back, Ricky's back, Fran's got his back, Ricky's got Fran's back. Did I say that all right? It just I don't know. It was an awful game, but it just shows where this program is, regardless of wins and losses. Just the family unit, aspect, feel, the culture. I just thought that was cool. So, and also, I found it interesting, when Fran had his, presser on Monday, talking to the media. He was asked about the backup quarterback situation, and Brown said that it's likely freshman Luke Carney from Dallas is the likely backup. He didn't really have a lot to say about Jakari or Rich Bellin. Jakari is a redshirt freshman from Georgia. Rich is a true freshman. He was a 3-star in 2025, just like Luke, and Rich is from New York City, Cardinal Hayes High School in the Bronx. So, again, to people saying, oh, well, Ricky was awful and put Luke in, really? I mean, Luke was no joke in high school. He won I don't know if it was 3 or 4 state title. I mean, at his private, he went to a prep school, and he threw for ridiculous numbers. But throwing him in there, no, I think you got to roll with Ricky for a bit. See how that goes. All right, we're gonna move I want to talk a little bit about the ACC. The ACC is kind of crazy. College football is kind of crazy. This is a crazy weekend. There's some really awesome games. We're not halfway through. We're entering week 6, so some of the teams that haven't had a bye will have been halfway through their season after this weekend. So I don't want to make these big, things, but certainly Miami looks like they're legit. They're number 3 in the country. And they're playing at Florida State, which was undefeated, and they had beaten Alabama, and that Alabama win looks better because Alabama beat Georgia this weekend. They own the Bulldogs lately. But Florida State, they lost to Virginia in double overtime on the road on Friday night, and that, is a loss, but Virginia's ranked now. They're 4-1. They're a good team. So, Florida State, hey, look, if they beat Miami, then we'll be talking about them again. But, as of right now, assuming if Miami goes into Tallahassee and wins that game, then, Florida State's got 2 ACC losses. That's a problem for the Seminoles. But who else looks good? Georgia Tech, they're undefeated. I think they're either 16 or 17 in the polls. But they needed overtime to beat Wake Forest, and they were losing that game big. And it went into overtime, and Wake Forest, they both scored touchdowns. Wake Forest went for 2 to try and win it, and they didn't get it, but they could have won that game. So, Georgia Tech survived. And they also beat Clemson, which stinks, a stinky team right now, on a last-second field goal, right? Wasn't it a 55-yarder at home? So, but the Georgia Tech, Haynes King's really good, So, Louisville, they're undefeated. Duke's 3-2, but they're 2-0 in the ACC, and they just crushed Syracuse. Virginia, like I said, is 4-1. Freaking Cal, the Cal Golden Bears are 4-1. They were picked as one of the worst teams in the league in the preseason media poll, which shows the latest example. Preseason media polls mean nothing. I mean, there's something to talk about, but I reference them here or in articles I write elsewhere, but they don't mean a lot. Pick Clemson to repeat. They're 1-3. They stink. So anyway, is the ACC only going to get one team in the playoff? I don't know. We'll see. certainly if teams like Georgia Tech or Virginia or Louisville or what, teams that only have one or are undefeated, one loss or undefeated, if they keep winning, they could be in the top 12. Miami certainly, if they keep winning, will look at a first round bye. So, it's still early. Syracuse is 1-1 in the conference. Are they like a bottom feeder, middle of the pack, top tier? Probably it's hard to say top tier right now, but I don't know. They beat Clemson on the road and they got crushed at home in a bad game. But this one is so if we're looking at week 6, Clemson goes to North Carolina. Are they the two most disappointing teams so far in the league? I mean, Clemson is the most disappointing because they were picked to win the league and they're 1-3. North Carolina, I should have looked this up. I can't remember where they were picked in the preseason poll. It wasn't like super high. I don't know if it was like the 8-9 range. It was ahead of Syracuse because Syracuse is 12. But they're, I think, 2-2, and they've got blown out, and Bill Belichick's their coach. Then again, that being said, I wasn't necessarily thinking that North Carolina was going to have this amazing year just because they have a legendary head coach in place now. Because, he took over, but, that doesn't mean that everything's hunky-dory. It's not entirely his roster and, portal and everything. Like, it's, let's see how he does in year 2 or 3. But Clemson and North Carolina, two stinky teams. But I think Georgia Tech's off this week. But like I said, Miami's at Florida State. Duke's at Cal at 10:30 on Saturday night, 10:30 Eastern. So obviously by the time that one's like in the second quarter. And then I think Virginia, heads to Louisville. So like there's some good good games with teams that are undefeated or one loss or undefeated in ACC play. Like we'll have a little bit even more clarity after this week, but again, it'll only be halfway through the season. But if I draw me some comments, let me know what you think in terms of like the best teams in the league. But if I had to right now, I'd probably say Miami and Georgia Tech. But then you could throw a Florida State or a Virginia or a Louisville in there. Louisville doesn't have a lot of impressive wins, but they're undefeated. They've had a bye, so I think they're 4-0. Let me know what you think. The ACC clearly isn't as good as some of the other leagues. I mean, the SEC, I think, has like 10 ranked teams. Big Ten, I think, has like 6 or 7. So how many does the ACC have? Miami, Florida State, Virginia, and Georgia. 4. Okay, 4. Sounds about right. All right, we're going to move on. So I know some fans get annoyed with these types of things. Let me just grab some water here. These bowl projections because, it's so early in the year. But I don't know. It's something fun to talk about. Frankly, I was just surprised after the blowout loss and kind of the context of the program, Ricky and just the bad loss, the defense struggling. I figured like all the bowl projections from like national media outlets, either when they came out on Sunday or some come out Monday, and, virtually none of them would have Syracuse. And a bunch of the main ones didn't, but a couple of them did. And so here, let me know what you think of these, okay? One has Syracuse playing in the first responder bowl on December, let me get the notes right, December 26th in Dallas against Fresno State. Does that jazz you up? What do you think? Is that good? Bowl is a bowl. So this next one is cool from the standpoint because of the venue, but it's the Wasabi, I love that. The Wasabi Fenway Bowl, which is on December 27th in Boston at Fenway Park, which is, I've been there multiple times, watched baseball games, but great stadium. And that has Syracuse playing Memphis, which is a solid team, group of 5, the American Conference. And then one other one I saw, and there could be others, but these are the main 3 I saw, was the Birmingham Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama on December 29th against Mississippi State. I mean, none of those are, if anything, the Memphis one, because I don't know, I feel like they're a good quality team. No disrespect to Fresno State or Mississippi State, but I feel like Memphis is a good team, had some good seasons of late, and it's in Boston where you get good fan support, assumably. The only thing that stinks about it is I like warm weather stuff, warm weather bowls. Look, I don't think Syracuse is going to be in play for the college football playoff or necessarily even a top-tier ACC bowl, but if they could just string together some wins and like get that defense in a positive direction, have Ricky get going, get the run game going more, and just like have some solid wins, even if they ended up 6-6 or 7-5 in the regular season. With Ricky having been quarterback and the schedule, like I'll take it. Maybe they go 7-5, get a bowl win, 8-5. Maybe they're not ranked, okay, but like it's still a solid year. And then you build on that. They got, Calvin Russell and a bunch of 4 stars coming in, and we'll see what they do in the portal. And Jelly, assumably, will be healthy and back. Like, so, just be positive. Positivity. All right, we're going to wrap up here with a little talk about Syracuse true freshman, Dimitri Samuel Jr. from Florida. So he's had some ups and downs, but by and large, he's having a pretty solid season, I'd say. Was looking on the SU Athletics website for the stats, and he's primarily a cornerback, starting cornerback, but he is a wide receiver, although he hasn't done a ton of that there. He's got 1 catch on the year for 10 yards, but on defense, he's got 17 solo tackles, 26 total tackles, which is up there. I don't know where. I probably should have looked that up. I don't think it's first, but it's up there in terms of total tackles for the team. He's got 1 interception and 6 pass breakups, which is definitely pretty high, ACC or even nationally. He had 6 before this past week, so some guys might have passed him. No one had a really good game on defense against Duke, but still, that's pretty good. And so ESPN had their ranking of the top freshmen in the country so far in 2025 on Monday, and he's number 8. Like, that's cool. I like that. And he's you know what? I should have read before I look. So I look at my notes here. According to ESPN, second on the team in total tackles. Interesting. Although they say he has 18 total solo tackles. Cuse.com said 17. Whatever. But look, he gets targeted a lot. He's gotten beat some, but he's also made a lot of good plays. And he's a true freshman, 17, second youngest in FBS football. And he's one of the top freshmen in the country. And if he keeps this up, he'll be contending for, true freshman All-American status. And it's just dope. It's really cool to see. So I'm happy for him. The whole team needs to get better on defense, but he's by and large been pretty darn good. So congrats, Demetrius. Keep it up. We're going to need that secondary, that pass coverage to be better against SMU. SMU is a pretty good passing team. They're bad on defense, just like Syracuse has been, at least lately. So hopefully Ricky will get better in the passing game, and Syracuse can squeak out a win in Dallas. All right. This is Neil Adler for Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. I appreciate you tuning in. Please provide all constructive feedback in the comments section. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. Tomorrow is hump day. I will talk to you again tomorrow on Wednesday, friends. Thanks again and take care.